Wednesday evening, everyone. You're watching Direct Line, and today is our Chesapeake Governors segment. We're joined by Governor Allen and Governor Ehrlich, two governors who need zero introductions at all. And our special guest co-host today is Bradley Lang, and our host is Mark Unkefer. Take it away, guys.
Thank you very much, Dwight, and welcome. Welcome back, our two favorite recurring guests, the two governors, and welcome Bradley Lang. But, we've got a lot to talk about. There's a lot of politics going on. But let's start with that Chinese balloon. And what are your thoughts about what should be done about that other than just shooting them down?
Well, the former senator should start that discussion.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Okay. Well, as soon as they saw it over Alaska is when they should have shot it down. And to some extent, I'm skeptical that they would have ever done somebody happening to see it and videoing it in Montana. I can, people say, well, there's not much but cattle and so forth in Montana. Worry of something that big crashing into someone's house or someone getting killed is that it should have been shot down when it was over Alaska, not wait until it through Montana all the way to the coast of South Carolina and they shoot it down. These other objects, the best I can understand is so they can pick that up. My worry on that is that they're using these literating. These are smaller, apparently the size of a small car. And like if you shoot a dove with a buckshot, you're going to obliterate that dove, and there's not going to have much left of it. But it shows what China is doing. China lied, and we have a lot of questions still unanswered, sort of thing. But it's good that the people know that this is happening. I'm surprised if they're not government and what they are, if whatever. It's surprising to me no one has yet determined who's sending these objects, UAVs, whatever they may be, or balloons, whatever they may be, up there. So there's a lot of questions yet to be answered. They're really slow in getting answers for any of this, and it's concerns that Americans have about our security.
So Governor Ehrlich, what are your thoughts?
And when you have a government that allows our southern border to be wide open, that they don't seem to have much care about what's coming over the borders.
Governor Ehrlich, what are your thoughts about what's the role of congressional oversight with this?
Well, obviously, I concur with what Governor Allen had to say. If I was a member, I'd be very frustrated, let alone a member of the general public. The process is supposed to work as follows. We have elections. You send folks to the House, the Senate, and the presidency. When events occur, you're supposed to be briefed by the executive branch, and then the executive branch is supposed to tell members of Congress and what's going on, and obviously through members of Congress, the people, the voters, the people who sent you there. And we haven't seen any of that. We've had these weird circumstances whereby members of Congress walk out, talk to the cameras, and literally saying, Gov. Allen, we didn't learn anything. I have no idea what just happened. There's no insight. I have nothing to say. I was given nothing to say. I have no real concrete information. So that's my major observation. Nobody really, it's tough to have an opinion because nobody knows. We don't know. We're speculating. Everybody's speculating, from UFOs to the Chinese to the Russians to something innocuous. Nobody knows. And again, that's with respect to these latest three incidents. And we do know the Chinese balloon, the intel gathering operation, was allowed to traverse the country. and it looked weak. It looked confused. It looked negligent. But again, maybe we gained some intel from observing it across the country, but it sure made everybody nervous, and it didn't exactly inspire confidence in our allies around the world, our Western allies and our enemies as well.
So, changing gears just a little bit, there was a big announcement this week that Senator Dianne Feinstein is retiring as senator, which I guess turns a lot of people's minds to the upcoming Senate races. Now, in Virginia, Tim Kaine has announced that he's running for re-election. I know there was Bradley was mentioning a poll out today about West Virginia and what candidates can run against strongest against Joe Manchin. So, both of you, what are your thoughts about handicapping starting with the Senate races, the 2024 Senate race? And I'll start with you with Governor Ehrlich. You got any insights about Senator Ben Cardin and his plans?
I do not. He has not raised a lot of money, which has raised speculation that he may in fact retire, but nobody knows. But my question is really for Governor Allen with regard to West Virginia. And Gov, so see, and I know some of the major characters as you do in West Virginia, and a Republican is going to be a very strong candidate, whoever that Republican happens to be. But we also hear whispers from time to time about Republican entreaties to Senator Manchin. And certainly Senator Manchin has not been treated very well. And whether that, in fact, whether he would consider switching parties and what that would buy him, i.e., a less crowded primary, nobody knows. But Gov Allen, since you're closer to the Senate, my question to you is, in a potentially very competitive primary, and with Manchin on the ballot as a Democrat, a competitive general, despite the red nature of the state, what are you hearing concerning those entreaties, and how serious are they?
Well, I think there's been plenty of entreaties. Very good question. I think that if Manchin was going to switch, she's got to switch now.
Yeah.
Because my worry we've seen this. I remember a Democrat legislator to switch to run as a Republican, and he lost in the Republican ruin getting any more Democrats to switch over after that. And so the less it'll be a situation where you can control whether it's a member of Congress running against them. Obviously, if Governor Justice decides, I think would beat him. Bradley's said that the only one who could beat him, today was the only one who was actually in this poll was Governor Justice. If Governor Justice runs, he'll get the nomination, and I think that state. Then you have also next year's election central race, and it defies political gravity to be running any more than a point or two ahead of whoever's at the top. Will get all the attention. Unless Joe Manchin was actually the Democrats not for president. Whoever they nominate, whether any of the rest of their usual suspects, they're all against coal, they're against natural gas, against West Virginians and their jobs and the revenues that pay for their services, communities. And so their party is coal or natural gas, and the Democrats are going to run our entire economy on wind and solar, which are intermittent, cost-viable sources of electricity. So I think I like Joe Manchin. I've known governor. He's a level-headed, really, he's a very likable person. He is much closer with his natural instincts to the Republicans, but he's always, I think that if he runs again, if it's justice, we'll win it. And by the way, that are coming up, hopefully Republicans have learned something, in my view, blowing the 2022 elections. We had such great pickup and have a majority in the U.S. Senate. The quality of candidates matter. When I was chair of the National Republican Senatorial Committee in 2000, we got up to 55. We got John Thune to run against Tom Daschle in South Dakota. Got Mel Martinez to get in Florida. After the South Carolina intra-squad scrimmage. Richard Burr was the best one. Coburn in Oklahoma. And all these ones we picked up, ordered Arlen Specter, by the way, to get renominated. Again, Pat supported Specter. Toomey's philosophy is much closer to mine, but Specter was our nominee. We wouldn't be having to spend millions and millions of dollars in Pennsylvania. We had that extra money to plow it into Florida, which is where we spent most. It's so expensive, and Mel Martinez won by about 1% of the vote. So that I'm hoping that the Republicans, where we're going to have some open that we nominate the best candidate there. An example where Republicans blew it for the Senate and for the governor's race, nominate someone who could win in Arizona, which I think is a heck of a good pickup. Michigan is another pickup opportunity, and so this are going to be determined who the Republicans nominate for president, and if that president and we nominate the Republicans in these various states nominate who resonate and can persuade not just Republicans but independents to vote for them, I think we have some really good chances. Arizona's a prime of West Virginia, and Michigan as a possibility. Eventual race and nominee is going to matter a great deal. I've run with presidential nominee. If your Republican nominee for president is not doing well, for the underticket or the undercard to exceed gravity of the top of the ticket.
Well, I think the Gov has taken one half of the pie here, and he's absolutely correct. Candidates count, quality of candidates count, cycles count. We all know that. If you're in a marginal state, the cycles, your last point, Gov. If you're in a marginal state, the cycle counts, and you see that time and time again. But there's the other half of the pie, which, and we didn't invent this phrase, but it's very true. Democrats have really perfected the art of elections while we still win the campaigns. And that is a net loser on our side. We go back just a few years to President Trump's reelection campaign, 40, 50,000 people showing up at these mass rallies, the enthusiasm, the crowd, the coverage, he's got to win. Look at all these people. And then look to then candidate Biden with 15 people in the backyard. And who's winning this race? Well, nobody's talking about the 1,500 folks in cubbyhole on the Democratic side doing their thing and doing the early vote thing and doing their harvesting thing and doing their canvassing thing and doing their mail-in thing. So, again, and Gov, you'll be interested to know, everybody will be interested to know, we had a race here in Anne Arundel County. We had a very strong candidate. Kendall wanted to work the polls. And, we're dinosaurs. We still want to work the polls. So she went out there and worked the polls, and she was out there for 6 hours, and she came back, and I said, how was it? She said, I didn't talk to anybody because people don't vote on election day anymore. It's election season. It's mail-in season. So covering the polls and the signs and all that get out to vote election day stuff that we used to be so concerned about, we're dinosaurs. And to the extent our party follows the dinosaurs, we say, it's all what happened to the dinosaurs. So, look, I don't like ballot harvesting any more than anybody else on this show. I think it's an invitation to fraud. But if it's the law in your state, we have to do it. Doesn't mean we have to like it. We just have to do it and get as good as the Democrats are at it. And if we don't, we'll continue to lose these close races.
Bob, Governor, you're so correct. And I know the laws in Maryland, but we win. The Republicans, the way they vote, our election day votes, then they report the absentee votes. The people voted on election day, those few people that Kendall saw in Anne Arundel County, but these absentee votes, and this was all occasioned by the tax policies during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And so this is where we do need to catch up. You may not like what they're doing, but it's the game. And so they have their ways of finding out their folks to vote early. Do is whether it's go to gun shows or evangelical churches or wherever, a small 5B or something like that. Go to those. Make sure you go to those and get those folks ready. In Virginia, what they're doing, and this is what makes it really tough in Virginia, is that one time asked for an absentee ballot, which a bunch, and these are mostly Democrats, and fearful about this pandemic, and the drop boxes and all this kind of. It was predominantly Democrats who asked for absentee ballots. And Virginia Democrats did is they saw how many of their folks did it, voted absent. Somebody asked for an absentee ballot just one time. Every subsequent election, they don't even have to request it. They're sent an absentee ballot. So the Democrats already are, because the world's controlled by those who show up. Everyone says, get out the vote. So they end up with such an advantage with that sort of an approach. But Governor Ehrlich is exactly correct. You can grouse and mew all you want about being and absentee voting and ballot harvesting and all that kind of stuff. Those laws are not going to change. Not in Maryland, not in Virginia, unless the Republicans get them in it this fall. And so that's the game. Those are the rules. Use them to our advantage about it.
Yeah, we haven't even discussed, Mark, the issue of what went down in Arizona. So let's just say that the Republicans all waited to Election Day, and they did. Right. And then they showed up, and then the machines broke. And then there wasn't enough ink. And then this and that, and who struck John, and how many Republicans ended up not voting because they didn't want to wait around for 4, 5, 8 hours to vote.
By the way,
well, that's actually
my brother Bruce lives in Arizona, and you should see their ballots. At a time they vote on all these judges. They vote on the mine inspector. Voted on justice as the pieces. All sorts of type issues. I mean, the ballot. I should have brought it with me. It is just voluminous. Go into we're accustomed to sample ballots. Right. Vote for this person for so forth, and maybe school board, and there might be some bond issue about. Oh, what is this bond issue about? Their ballot is just so voluminous of this. They're voting for people to be on the board of community colleges. It is something that you really need to, if you want to be an informed voter. You got this judge stuff they do there, where you can recall judges. They have a list of, and no one even knows what any of the names are. But the Democrats know, and here's 3 or 4 judges we want to knock out, and they knocked them out. And so an informed electorate is very important in it. And again, we saw Jen Kagan's campaign for Congress that she won, killed in the absentee ballots. Then we had a special election for her state Senate loss. But they learned something from that on the early voting, that they improved absentee voting by 16%. But we're going to have to do much better than that.
Governor, one of the strategies that some folks are advocating is that for Republicans to go after the low propensity voters and encourage them to sign up for absentee ballot. And the thought behind that is, instead of having to worry about getting a vote out on election day, you have a whole season to do the chase campaign, harvesting or whatever it takes to go after those voters to get them to come in. And that would be the strategy, if you will, to really embrace mail-in voting. Now, I have to tell you, we had folks in Maryland who said not just vote on election day only, wait to the last 2 hours to vote, which was kind of a strange recommendation. But you're right. There's really got to be change in the mindset in order to be more.
Yeah,
effective.
the last 2 hour thing makes no sense, because if you petition a judge and the judge says, sorry, too late, we're not going to extend the hours, you're done. I mean, what sense is that? It just makes no sense.
Yeah. Well, let's change gears. Governor Allen, you were mentioning that you were obviously not right now. You've got power, but you don't have power in the House, so you're elsewhere tonight. But we were talking a little bit about energy policy and what the prospects were, whether or not we were going to have more blackouts the way they're having in California in the future. I mean, Dominion Power, Virginia Power, has been a powerhouse, if you will, in the state. Are we going to expect more problems in the future?
Well, the way things are going in Virginia, it sure will be more problems in the future. And the Democrats took over everything a few years ago. They passed something called an Economy Act, which is the same as the Green New Deal. It's very regressive. Electricity. They call themselves progressives. They're regressive, because the people who pay $20 more every time you fill up with gas, or $25 more a month, their food prices are working lower and middle income families. Virginia has an monstrously expensive boondoggle fixing to happen, and it's called Project. And you see a lot of the states to the northeast are looking at this as well. Platforms, 27 miles off the coast of Virginia Beach is where I am right now. Those two wind turbines, they said, work 42% of the time. It will guarantee that when you put your 176 wind turbines, costing $10 billion and going up every time in cost, we want you to guarantee 42% of the time. Dominion said, oh no, we're not going to do that. They said, how about 30? Won't any guarantees, because we don't know when the wind will be blowing and so forth. At point, the analogy is, if you went to a car dealer and they said, we have this new, and the manufacturer says it'll operate 3 out of 7 days of the week, buy such a vehicle. Heck no. But the power created by this intermittent, unreliable, costly offshore wind boondoggle will be what electricity produced anywhere in this country. And if you jack up the cost, affects everyone. That affects your economic development. A lot of companies need a lot of power. Generally speaking, power that is generated by hydroelectric is the least expensive, is natural gas or coal. If you want to spend a lot of money and have electricity, nuclear is the way to go, or modular. Some are talking about the nuclear reactors. They're expensive, but they operate 90% plus, and coal and hydro do, as opposed to these things that operate 37, which is just a ridiculous thing. And the poor people are captive. You can say, gosh, I want to get my power from the TVA or the Mecklenburg stuck. You don't have any choice. And these monopolies are guaranteed a rate of money if you tell them to burn dried orange peels. It'd be great for citrus growers, but they make money no matter what, because they're a monopoly. And Virginia has joined this regional greenhouse gas initiative. It's a cap and tax scheme. Everyone's power bills. It's with these loser northeastern states. Pennsylvania hasn't joined, and New Hampshire has not, but all these other northeastern states have done it, and they have high population because of their taxes and high cost of living. And so, why in the heck North Carolina or Tennessee or Georgia or Florida, states that are? But this is the kind of stuff that'll make Virginia less competitive.
3 points. One is Gov's right on point. I mean, an unreliable grid is awful, and it goes directly to quality of life. And if we can't win on that issue, we got to go back to the minor. Secondly, with regard to these environmental impacts and the turbines, you see the whales now showing up on the beaches, beached whales, dead whales. You wonder about the environmental impacts, and you wonder where the environmentalists are, Gov, with respect to these wind turbines, but in addition to the inefficiency, just the impact with regard to the environment. And then the third issue is, and this really is one of my pet peeves, the next time I hear a politician, any politician at any level, say, by X date, we're going to do Y, because X presupposes the science will allow you to do Y. And last time I checked, most politicians didn't go to med school, they're not engineers, so they don't know. Some speechwriter came up with X date. It's not a function of science. It's not a function of what's known. It's a function of what sounds good when you say it real fast. So I'm tired of this. In 5 years, the world's going to end. In 10 years, we know fossil fuels. It's all politics. It's all rhetoric. It's not a function of any science. And I think the voters really need to make their views known on this. It's negligent politics. Most importantly, it's negligent public policy.
Governor Ehrlich, one of the prospects that we have in Maryland is this notion that the California restriction on cars, on gas-fired cars, could go into effect by as early as 2035. And without going through all the backstory, there are a variety of regulatory hooks that could drive that decision. Well, we know what your thoughts on, but maybe you want to expand on what that potential is for the state of Maryland.
I don't need to expand on it. Everybody knows. The issue is whether enough people are going to stand up. Very progressive legislature, people need to stand up. And it's not that complicated. People need to show up in Annapolis and let their views be heard. Other than that, if you're going to let this legislature go, it's going to be very hard and very fast left.
I'm waiting to hear. Yeah, we can't hear you, Governor Allen. And it's a little like the American flag upside down.
Yes, you're upside down, Gov.
A sign of distress that we're seeing right here.
Hey, Gov Allen, try logging out and log back in. That should solve the problem.
I think, I've always heard that Virginia Power was very, very powerful in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Now I know just how powerful that they are. The
distress side should be coming from us, from Maryland. I'm from Virginia.
Anyway, so one of the other things we want to talk about, which is really kind of tease up the kind of rich state, poor state phenomenon. This is, I think, the phenomena is the way to describe it is the phenomena of people voting with their feet. When one state, there we go.
There you go, Gov. Back.
Welcome back. This is now a topic I know near and dear to your heart, Governor Allen, but this phenomena of competition between the states with COVID and with social distancing and remote work, it's really empowered people to move to where they're treated the most fairly. I guess this is going to go to you, Governor Ehrlich.
Well, the first time, I'm going to tell a story on Gov Allen.
Sure.
One of the first times we met, it was about an Orioles baseball game in a box in 1995. Early, I was a freshman. I've told this story a bunch of times. Gov Allen knows the story. And here I was feeling a little cocky, hotshot, coming in with new majority, just elected to Congress, feeling pretty good about myself. And Gov, were you governor then? Was it 95? Where were you? Where were you? I forgot what Governor Allen was at the time, but he basically turned to me and said, "You know, Bobby, we kind of use you for batting practice in Maryland. We're Virginia and we're pro-business, and everybody knows you're not." And I never forgot that story. I never forgot it because he was right. The problem is so many people are voting with their feet because they can. The real problem is they're escaping high tax, high regulated states, going to better states, more business states, more liberty-minded states. And to the extent they're keeping those old voting habits, we're going to have a problem. That's really the issue, just bluntly. And you would hope they would realize there's a reason they're moving. You would hope they remember when they get to their new venue that, hey, this is so much better than where I came from. I wonder why. And they make that connection.
The suspense is, can we hear you, Governor? Can you hear us? I was going to, because I know we've in the past talked a little bit about the border with both Tennessee and with North Carolina, but there's another border that probably bears watching for both Virginia and Maryland, which is the Governor Justice in West Virginia has proposed again. He did this in the past, a effort to cut the West Virginia's income tax in half. So it's a 6.5% rate right now. It would go down to 3.25%, which would be obviously well below either Maryland or Virginia. So I'll once again turn to Governor Ehrlich, and we'll see some cross-border competition if were that to go through, particularly obviously in Western Maryland.
Cross-border competition, economic development competition is only real if everybody wants to play. So to the extent you have a legislature or a state that really doesn't care what the business environment is and is very willing to have businesses leave, and again, people and businesses vote with their automobiles and leave, you're not going to have a competition. They don't care. They just don't care. It's not important. It's not one of their priority issues. And on the progressive left, for the most part, that appears to be the case.
So we'll move forward on that. We've talked about the states. We've talked about the competition between the states. Let's turn to presidential politics and put you on the spot. We had Nikki Haley announced running for president on the Republican side, and would appear to be the first. Well, obviously, former President Trump has already announced and did so a couple of months ago. The race is beginning to heat up.
Gov Allen, can you hear us? Okay, I guess the answer is no.
Yep.
We're going to have a series of announcements. Nikki Haley is a strong candidate, did a really good job. I'm interested, just parenthetically, she did call President Trump to tell him. He said, oh,
you're not muted, Governor. Hold on, let me try something. Hold on. Let's see if this works.
I'm sorry. That's like a first on our show. It's like a hostage.
Get the governor out of jail. Get the governor
like a hostage.
out of jail.
Hey, Governor, try unplugging your earbuds and plugging them back in. That may solve the problem. Can you hear us?
It's like a hostage message.
Blink twice if you can hear us, Governor.
Someone may have to write back to him.
Anyway, I'll give a quick answer here. So Nikki Haley calls her he says great stuff about her. He announces now the president attacked her today. So So we're going to see more of this. I do believe we're going to see Secretary Pompeo more likely than not. I do believe we're going to see Vice President Pence more likely than not. And I do believe we're going to see Governor DeSantis more likely than not. That's a serious field of serious people, very successful, very accomplished people, which is a good thing. I want that sign for my wife. I want that sign in house.
So this is a first for the show. We've now gone. We've decided to do captioning, right?
Hold on.
We're going full captioning, and we're going to make all our questions have to. I'm going to have to write out my questions and share them. What is it?
Governor, unplug your and then plumb back in.
I'm having fun watching this. I have to say.
It's in here on the nuts on the table.
So
Put them back in, and that should solve the problem.
All right, Gov, are you back?
I'm sure.
All right.
We could try going out and coming back in.
So let me turn back. We just kind of go back to where we started from with the State of the Union. Again, it's going to this one's for you, Governor Ehrlich.
Gov out and I agree on most stuff anyway, so we're okay.
Right. He may have we may get him back on, and we'll have a whole stream of whatever. So a few weeks ago we had the State of the Union address, and President Biden assured us that the economy is doing great, and the only thing that's holding it back are Republicans. That said, I have to say the polling data is probably on the other side of that.
How's that?
Any thoughts about?
Well, I thought that State of the Union was more Democratic convention speech than anything else. Fairly well delivered for the president, but basically targeted to the Democratic base. Certainly not to the middle, certainly not right of center, independents and Republicans. And I think the polls reflected that fact.
And one of the challenges is, of course, he has continually always said that there's, if there's first there was no inflation, and then the inflation that there was transitory, and then the inflation that we had was going down when it wasn't really going down quite as much. What are your thoughts on this kind of politics of denial, if you will, as an approach to talking about the economy?
Typically, that would get punished on election day. It did not get punished midterms. As a result, we're going to see more of it. It's very inconsistent. At times, really crossing the line, but it didn't get punished as well as other policy failures on election day during the midterm. So as a result, unfortunately, you're just going to see more of this type of behavior leading up to the presidential election of 2024.
It's a good point. Well, we're kind of getting to the end of the show, and I feel kind of.
I'm going to have Governor Allen do the next show alone, so he can make up.
I think that's a good point.
Time.
Yeah, we'll give him equal time. We got rid of the equal time rules in the '80s, but we'll bring them back for direct line.
President Reagan did that.
President Reagan, and that opened up
fairness doctrine. Yeah.
Yes. I was running. I introduced Larry O'Connor the other night, and I was going to say I'm going to keep it short. I'm not going to go back to talk about equal time and what it did for talk radio over the years. But we do have a couple of things. We do have a show coming up with Susan Allen in another week, and she will be talking about her Reagan book. So in fairness to
Great
the
lady,
Allens,
great
we
lady.
will be giving them additional time coming up in a week. So, and I know you're coming up. You've got some appearances coming up. I know because I just paid for one. Going to Howard County, I got some others coming up as well. So you're getting around the state and promoting your book. So how is that going?
It's good. The book is, as you know, is about President Reagan's 4 years and what a disruptor really meant in context during those 4 years. A disruptor with regard to the Republican establishment, the Democrat establishment, the media establishment, the foreign policy establishment, the business establishment. Someone who just disrupted the entire MO when it came to the presidency and the chief executive of the country. So I wanted to put it in context. The book's done very well. Continue to do events and book signings and all that. And we'll be in, Mark, I'll see you, I guess, in Howard County in less than 2
Howard
weeks.
County. Yep, I'll be doing that.
All right.
All right.
Forgive me, I didn't buy the book because I already have a couple copies.
Yeah, that's okay. That's all right. That's all
Don't
right.
take
You're
it
forgiven.
personally.
You can never have too many copies.
Huh?
I always enjoy.
You can never have too many
shows.
copies.
You
I
never
always
can have
enjoy
too many.
the shows,
You know
and
that.
I always enjoy being with Governor Allen. So again, Gov, next show you got it, pal.
Can you hear me now?
Oh my God!
Yes.
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 We can hear you.
Right. I know that everything that Bob Ehrlich, Governor Ehrlich, was saying was prescient target, and all I could do is grin and laugh and give you notes. All you covered. I did see somebody said, "Why don't you double the nuclear power in Maryland?" And that's
Yes.
I don't know who. At least I could get text, which is yeah, and now produces 39% of the state's electricity line. You'd have to double it. That one of the problems we have in our country for nuclear, beyond its capital cost, is every nuclear site is for high-level radioactive waste. Low-level radioactive waste gets sent to South Carolina. That's the gloves and boots and clothes. It's low level. I know this is blasphemous to say this, but we should learn from the French when it comes to 75% of their power from nuclear. What they do with the spent fuel is they recycle it and they vitrify it and encase it in glass. And the high is maybe 100 and something years rather than 1400. So it's a much better approach. And for here around Virginia Beach, we're near where nuclear subs are. Those are nuclear powered modular nuclear reactors. And one of the good things I think that Governor Youngkin is talking about, putting in these small modular reactors, which each one of them just was Ronald Reagan, my favorite aircraft carrier, naturally. That could power homes, which means, maybe 80, 100,000 residences. And so one of the things they're looking at in Virginia is in the areas in Southwest Virginia where they're energy literate, put those modular and then wheel the power to other places. And that's something the next 10 years. Because what you want is reliable, affordable power. Not cheap. It's not cheap, but it is reliable. I'd much rather have, if you're going to be spending, bill on it to be operating 95% of the time, unlike this idiocy of which the only thing more stupid than wind on land, the only wind off in the ocean. That is just the dumbest thing of all. Environmental aspects of it. The environmentalists are really going to be in a quandary where these endangered right whales, it's in the path of it. If the studies on the wind turbines on land and what that is, in fact, living near the sound of those and what it even does to cattle and animals. And so what's for some aquatic life, just doing the seismic testing the seismic testing to see if there's any oil and gas off our coast. Well, 76 wind turbines out there pounding pillars into the sand, and then you get the sound off of those wind turbines when they're working, disorienting. But we'll see what they think about that for their, because they're religion climate change alarmism, and anybody who questions it is a heretic or you question any of this. But there are better ways, and in my view, is a very clean way of producing electricity. This is a feedstock for all chemicals, fertilizers, plastics, metals, tires. I think we're blessed to have the most energy resources in the world. It's national security, and maybe people are learning that after Russia's invasion, and the Europeans are picking it up too. And Italy's going to be getting natural gas pipelines out of as an alternative to Russia, and obviously, Cliffs is one place where liquefied natural gas could eventually be sent in Europe.
I think we're out of time, Mark. But
we are out of time.
The Gov makes great points. Obviously, again, going back to my point, next time you hear a politician use X state and it's not a function of science, just turn it off.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
Thank you very much.
And Biden saying on our children's book on Ronald Reagan.
Yes,
Tune into
coming
her.
up
She'll
next
be
week.
All right.
Go, Susan.
Adios, y'all.
Thank
Take
you
care.
all.
Thank you.
Ken.